Start your engines!
Who better to get this party started than Bill Mullis, who owns and operates this facility. Said it with a lot of passion. You can see the light show is already started as 24 of the best late model stock car drivers in the country are set to tackle one of the most challenging tracks on the circuit here at Langley Speedway. As everybody's starting to clear out and get themselves in that mindset, Eric. Again, this is when you can kind of feel a little bit more behind the cockpit of that race car, especially when you have this light show going on. I'm sure that's something that it gets my heart rate up in here. I can't imagine what they're dealing with in there.
And one other thing, tip of the cap to the Langley Speedway. You'll notice in the infield, it looks quite bare. As is customary here at this racetrack, when we get ready for feature time, they make sure the infield is cleared so that way the fans who come out to this racetrack have the best seat in the house anywhere in the house. It is something that we cannot tip our cap far enough for the track personnel to be able to coordinate and orchestrate that. That means the fans here are going to see just as good of a show as you at home, because we could see the entirety of this 4/10 of a mile oval.
I think Landon Lewis must know that he's on TV. He's given that King Custom Panels logo a good look here as a pair of KHI Toyotas will start at the front of the field, and we'll go ahead and kind of reintroduce you, I guess you could say, to those that are going to be starting in this race in the visithampton.com 125 here at Langley. As mentioned, Brent Cruz, a blistering lap that he put in after winning at Orange County Speedway earlier this year. He'll start on pole. Landon Lewis right now, as you can see, a couple of cars have come to a stop with one of the cars not able to roll. That's actually Butterbean, who was stopped on the front straightaway for a couple of moments, and I think you could hear the grandstands, a collective breath as he fired that car up and was able to roll.
And the irony there is that we saw something like this happen to one of our front row starters last week at Tri-County, and Landon Lewis pulled out onto the racetrack before the parade and pace laps even began, and they had a ball joint fail on the front end of that race car. Landon's done a great job shaking that off to come out here and be as fast as he has been tonight, despite the immense disappointment last week. But Butterbean just gave the masses here quite the scare, as it took him a little bit to roll off and re-enter his position in 7th place for what will be his spot for the green flag.
And again, you can see that number 77 car of Trayton Lapsevich, a career best qualifying effort for that Everum machine. You can see, again, these tire pressures, they're low. They're scraping the ground just on these paraded pace laps before they get these tires up to full song, up to the air pressures that they'll be seeing a little bit later. So a low configuration for that number 77, but it has been bad fast all weekend long.
Let's take a look at our starting lineup here for tonight. As we mentioned, an all KHI front row after they locked it out in qualifying. Just 0.04 of a second separated Brent Cruz and Landon Lewis. And as we mentioned, Trayton Lapsevich, one of the most impressive rookie. In fact, 2 of the top 3 drivers in this race are fighting for Rookie of the Year honors in terms of Bill Steen Shock's Rookie of the Year. Lapsevich is up there as well with Millington alongside.
How about Jacob Hefner? We know how strong that he's been. And Matt Waltz, local hero, new ST2 tire. Doesn't matter, that 2 car, it's a brand new one and it's a fast one.
The most recent winner on the tour, Butterbean, starting there inside of row 4 with Deke McCaskill finally back on the podium last week at Tri-County. That may be the Kickstarter he needs. And surprise, surprise, the 2 that tangled at Tri-County late last week, alongside one another in row 5 in Quapple and Hall.
Doesn't it always seem that way in racing? It always seems to work out. There's a couple of good friends here on row 6. Bobby McCarty in that number 6. He's been fast all weekend long. Minnie Tyrell, 4th in the championship standings. 2
drivers who had career best efforts. Bryce Applegate, Andrew Grady. They scored some of their best finishes at Tri-County last week. Ronnie Bassett Jr., along with Chad McCumbee, who has never finished outside of the top 10 in any Cars Tour race at Langley. As we see the rest of the field scroll across the bottom portion of our screen, 24 cars strong.
Yeah, we'll see if Bassett can catch back up. You see Brandon Pierce back here, row 10, Cade Brown, Connor Jones. Drivers that have their work cut out for them. Buddy Isles Jr., Katie Hettinger, as well as Tyler Tomasi, that number 21 car. I think it could surprise a few folks as Gavin Boschel also have his hands full in that LPP JBL Toyota to try to get up towards the front of the field. at least as far as we can see, I believe the lights are out. We're going to be going this time.
Before we go green, just want to say a big welcome back to Brandon Willard, our flagger, Danny Willard, our race director. After they lost Pop Willard over the course of the last week, we're happy you're back home. Let's go racing.
Can't wait to see the shots that Blake Harris and Carson Elledge get there as Jim Bushy will bring the HendrickCars.com pace car down, and Brent Cruz and KHI will work their way into the Death Wish Coffee start zone. Sit back and enjoy this one from Langley. Will lead lap number 1. Lewis files in second as most of the field tries to get single file further on back. However, Matt Waltz kind of taking advantage of some of the checking up we've seen on the inside, may be able to net himself a spot on the outside of Jacob Hefner and may look for more just to the outside of Ryan Millington.
Matt Waltz is someone who used to commit his entire livelihood to that of driving a race car, but as years have gone on, his family expanded, he decided to scale back on a part-time basis, but this is a place in which he calls home as he gets really loose down into turn 1, kicks the dust up all the way to the top side of 1 and 2, and loses a couple of spots in the process.
And again, was talking with his spotter walking down to the drivers' meeting and talked about how this was a brand new race car. They were just trying to shake it down and get some laps before hopefully coming out to this race. They weren't able to do that. This is their first start here at Langley Speedway this season. It's here in the Z-Max Cars Tour, perhaps looking forward to a Hampton Heat, and that's it. But again, it's going to take him about another lap or so. You saw how high he got, all the dust, all the marbles that kick up way out of the groove that nobody races at here at Langley. Going to take him another lap or so to recover, but I got to say, he looked awfully strong there on that second lane. As you see, Dick McCaskill also kicked to the high side as well. Connor Hall trying to move his way by.
Hall trying to pick up a spot there to the inside of McCaskill. Here's your front 3. A lot of youth represented in the image that you see here. Brent Cruz in the number 29, the 62 of Landon Lewis, 77 of Trayton Lapsevich. As we drop back and see a battle here between Bryce Applegate and Matt Waltz, with Connor Hall entering the frame in the bottom in the 22 as well.
You do not have to wait long for these fans to let you know that either Butterbean or Connor Hall is making a move by somebody, as when Butterbean just got by Jacob Hefner, the entire stand stood up, and the same could be said when Connor Hall was able to make his way by Deke McCaskill. This is Hefner from that 5th starting spot trying to hang on and racing tight with Carson Quapple and Bobby McCarty trying to do the same thing, bringing tow, as that's how close it can get. And it's tough to decide there, Eric. When you're that car on the outside, there's a little bit of racing groove, a little bit of racing space down there on the bottom. It's kind of depend on that inside line. Do you want to dip your left sides down there, get a little more rotation, or if you're a little loose, you're going to see what Quapple's doing here, trying to use as much racetrack as possible as he does a 4-wheel slide through turn 4.
Yeah, definitely use the end of the racetrack to help that car corner. And that's 2 drivers nose to tail right now that you would think have gone to victory lane here at Langley before. Now Carson Quapple is the track record holder here in terms of Thunder Road Harley-Davidson pole qualifying, but both he and Bobby McCarty have never won a Cars Tour sanctioned race here at Langley before. Quapple, however, has never finished outside of the top 5 in his efforts, and Bobby McCarty has ventured up into the top 10 in just about every start that he has had here except for 1. They're starting to float their way to the front. That's the battle for 6th and 7th respectively, with Hefner still trapped to the outside of the 95.
And this is why you have to try and get down as quickly as possible. There was a little bit of an open window there for Hefner to get down in front of Bryce Applegate. Was not able to do so. And how about the couple of efforts that we have seen the last couple of weeks from that 45 car of Bryce Applegate? Had his career best run last week, as you mentioned, but very early on, Eric, starting to make some great headway through this field. He's up into 8th, and oh, by the way, no shockers here. Connor Hall also up a couple of spots.
There was a bit of a running joke throughout the pit area as to what car Connor Hall was going to bring here. It was, in fact, the traditional Nelson Motorsports number 22. But as we see the 77 of Trayton Lapsevich, that's the Chad Bryant Racing team that went to victory lane with Connor Hall last year. But it wasn't necessarily a Chad Bryant Racing car that they used to do it. Connor brought the vehicle that he runs in weekly competition here last year. and that was what he used to go to victory lane. There's a bit of joking going on throughout the pit area as to whether Connor would try to do the same thing here tonight. They're committed to this Nelson Motorsports traditional hot rod, and right now Connor is starting to work his way forward.
You know, we were talking a little bit earlier this season about these ST2 tires, and particularly coming to these very abrasive surfaces as Butterbean is able to make the move by Ryan Millington and go up into the top 5. This is uncharacteristic of what you would see usually at Langley Speedway from Butterbean. Somebody that is notorious and famous for saving his tires here, going all the way to the back, losing all of his track position, and yet racing his way forward. But I think, again, this ST2 tire, a little bit harder compound, not as much fall off, and through the first couple of races at Southern National Motorsports Park and a couple of the other abrasive racing surfaces that we've gone to, New River All-American Speedway being an example, I don't think these teams are willing to be as conservative as they've been in the past. There's not as much saving going on as we've typically seen in the ZMAX Cars Tour.
And that seems evident by our leader, who has gone out to a 1.5 second lead over this fight for second, in which Trayton Lapsevich just took sole possession of. Lapsevich, who comes into this race 5th in points, now holding down that second spot, but company is arriving to the tune of that of Butterbean, of Millington, of Quapple, McCarty, and more, as they've all started to close in on Lapsevich in second, and Lewis, who holds down third.
Again, you can see all those cars in the inside lane, at least in 3 and 4. 1 and 2 here, a little bit of options in terms of where these drivers want to go. You can see Quapple there kind of laying his left sides down, but look here in 3 and 4, pretty much every single car, Queen, Millington, Quapple, McCarty, all in line, trying to use all that grip that's down there on the bottom. This is a slick and hot surface here at Langley Speedway, but a little bit of grip there on that paint in 3 and 4, and all of these drivers who we know are winners, are champions here in the ZMAX Cars Tour, trying to lay those left side tires right on that paint to get some grip. It's Connor Hall looking for a nose and just down to the inside of Bryce Applegate to get up into the 8th spot.
And just as the fans have been cheering on Butterbean, there is a group in the front stretch crowd who are pumping their fists for Connor Hall to get past Applegate and not lose touch with the cars ahead of him. And there's been a couple of knocks on the back bumper of that 45 car already. Hall may be starting to grow a little bit impatient, seeing the rest of the field drive away, while he is still pinned behind the 45 in what is a battle for 8th position.
Again, lap times, as far as we have seen, have fallen off about 6-7 of a second, depending on who you look at, starting to get down in the 17.1s, 17.2s for the large majority of the field. As you can see, McCarty right now, I think, content to ride in line, at least for a couple of moments, behind the Junior Motorsports number 8 of Carson Quapple, a couple of former champions here in this series. McCarty, though, just running, you can see a little bit lower than what Quapple is able to muster here at this juncture, but in 3 and 4, pretty lockstep. Just Quapple a little sideways, and Connor Hall may have the space to try and finally make that move on Applegate, who has done an impressive job making this difficult for that number 22 car.
Oh, and look at Hall fighting the car up off turn 2 over one of the most abrasive patches of pavement that they have here on the racetrack. You'll see several sections of the racetrack, a little bit darker than others, like right here at the entrance to turn 1. But this patch that Hall's approaching now, as McCaskill follows him through, right here off of turn 2.
You can see it.
You can really see these cars. What's the word that DW used to use? Porpoising off of turn number 2. They're certainly a bit edgy, and that does not get better as the race goes on.
No, absolutely not. Particularly if you're a little free off the corner. Again, here at Langley, you put the throttle down, you get those rear tires sliding, and then you get your car a little bit upset. As we see here, Quapple goes by, well, doesn't go by, he lets Bobby McCarty go on by to the inside. That is the battle for 6th position, and right now that 6th car goes up into that position with Bobby McCarty. So Quapple falls back to 7th. Again, Brent Cruz, his lead been pretty stable, although has started to shrink in the last handful of laps. It was once a little over a second, and now it's about a second or so that it has stabilized with, well, it's not his KHI teammate that's behind him anymore. That is Trayton Lapsevich up in second. And Eric, I know we've been talking at length about this young driver, his transition over into late model stock cars. He's got a resounding and loud fan base up there in Canada that is watching him closely on FloRacing, and they and I have been equally impressed with what he's been able to do with Chad Bryant Racing. This isn't an easy series to jump into, and he's done a tremendous job so far this season.
The series in which Trayton vacated after winning the championship, the NASCAR Canada Series, had a race earlier on this afternoon. So a lot of his friends north of the border now have an opportunity to glue their eyes on FloRacing yet again, this time to see what Trayton would be able to do. Of course, he comes from a racing family. His brother Caden, also a NASCAR Canada Series champion back in 2016. His father Jeff raced for several years in the NASCAR Canada Series as well, but he's decided to take his talents down south because he feels this would be the next best step in his motorsports career, and he has been so impressive so far in 2024 as McCarty starts to size up Millington for the final spot in the top 5.
And this has been old school Bobby McCarty. When you think about the last exceptionally abrasive surface we went to at New River All-American Speedway, that 6 car was the one that ended up in Cookout Victory Lane, and yet here he is at Langley, another abrasive racetrack, and is chasing down Millington, chasing down Queen. He has completely driven away, probably has about 5 or 6 car lengths or so before you could barely see, mustering up into your picture, that being the 8 of Carson Quapple. Quickly clicked along 40 some odd laps, not too long away from what would be a Shitty Coolers competition caution, and I think with that you're starting to see the lap times kind of back off a little bit in anticipation of that. If you can't make a move now, it may not be worth trying to push your tires.
One of the things we are seeing, specifically out of the 77 of Lapsevich and 62 of Lewis, is these cars getting a little bit loose off the corner. And Blake, you and I were talking earlier today, it seems as though this track kind of races a little bit like a circle. You're not really going straight for all that long, and because of that, you've really got to exercise the throttle on corner exit, because if you overdo it too much, you'll pay the price going into the next set of corners, because you're pretty much always turning here.
Well, you heat up that right rear tire too much, particularly if you're sliding, if you're loose, that's it here. There's nothing that could save you on entry, in the middle of the corner, on exit. You're just along for the ride. You're going to be kind of what we saw at a Shane Van Gisbergen a little earlier at Portland. You're just going to be drifting around the racetrack the entire time, as you can see the 77, 62 kind of sorting things out right here. A couple of our friends on the front straightaway waving that blue flag that you were mentioning with a couple of those fans who are out here. A lot of flagmen out here at Langley Speedway, but curious with the couple of cars that are at the back of the field that are being approached by Brent Cruz. I don't think they'll be caught, but you think about a lot of really good race cars and race teams. Brandon Pierce, Chad McCumbee, Gavin Boschel, number 55, maybe trying to employ a tire-saving strategy. Just don't know if that's going to be as effective as it's been in years past.
Their goal is going to be to try to stay within the range of on the lead lap. So ahead of that of Brent Cruz, who is now about a half a straightaway behind, make that less than that, with the battle for second evidently going to go all the way down to the wire, of where we'll see our first Shitty Coolers competition caution, with Lewis able to hold a bit of a tighter line throughout most of 3 and 4. These two have been keeping each other honest all night long.
That they have any mistake, as you can see the gap there to Brent Cruz again has stabilized at about 9/10, maybe call it 8/10 of a second now. You can see Gavin Boschel that is just a car length or 2 up the road from Brent Cruz, so you'd imagine that 55 will try to pick up the pace. Believe this time by, when Brent Cruz comes around, it'll be a Shitty Coolers competition caution that will be displayed. As he puts the throttle down, nearly gets to the back end of that 55 car, and there you see it as he crosses the stripe. The first Shitty Coolers caution of the night at Langley.
And it came right in time for that of Gavin Boschel, along with several other cars like that of McCumbee, Hedinger, Pierce. But I'm with you, Blake. If you did not start up in the top half of this field, why not try to be a little conservative in these opening laps, knowing that the field very well will get re-racked at some point? Perhaps that's the agenda or angle those cars, drivers, and teams are taking. But the driver who has been perfect so far, nursing about a 1 to at times 1.5 second lead, is that of Brent Cruz, looking for what he hopes to be his second Z-Max Cars Tour win in 7 starts in 2024.
Well, again, he opened the season exactly like this, led 82 laps at Southern National Motorsports Park. Ended up fading a little bit later in that race. You'd hope that the experience he's garnered in these late model stocks at a couple of abrasive racetracks that, well, he would learn from that experience, not pushing that 29 KHI Toyota that we know is very fast a little too hard. But so far, through 45 laps, it has been all KHI and Brent Cruz so far. With 80 laps to go, we'll step aside and we'll be right back with the ZMAX Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear on FloRacing.
Easy way to help take care of your vehicle? ZMAX Micro Lubricant. ZMAX Micro Lubricant is a DIY solution that pours into your fuel and oil. ZMAX proprietary molecules are uniquely small, so they literally soak into the metal, dispersing harmful carbon deposits. This improves horsepower, extends engine life, and reduces emissions. ZMAX is good for your car, your wallet, and the environment. Can be used in newer used vehicles. Available at zmax.com or your local auto parts store.
Hendrick. It's the perfect time to find an affordable vehicle. Visit HendrickCars.com and shop our large selection, including over 1,000 vehicles priced under 20 grand. Plus, drive today but pay later with our payment deferral and zero down options. Buy from the name you know and trust. Hendrick has received over 650,000 five-star online reviews. Over 1,000 vehicles under 20 grand. Find yours at HendrickCars.com.
It's time to double down. It's time to raise the stakes. And it is time to go all in with Kubota High Limit Racing. This is the High Limit Room. It's the home of 24 high rollers.
We're back at Larry King Law's Langley Speedway, the Visit Hampton 125 for the ZMAX Cars Tour. I'm down on pit road. We are looking at the 55 of Gavin Bouchel. They were jacked up the rear of the race car, looked underneath of it. They have since let the car go back down, but the car has not begun to move quite yet. Now they are indicating to the driver to go ahead and move. So they were not happy with what's underneath that race car. They wanted to take a good look at it, but he is now rolling once more. Besides Gavin, we had a couple more takers down on pit road. Let's go back to the booth.
That we did. It was Brandon Pierce. Connor Jones was also down there. Chad McCumbee also came down. So again, 4 cars that are at the tail end of the field. No shocker there. If they want to make some adjustments, get those cars handling a little bit better. Not really going to lose anything at this point, trying to go down and make some adjustments.
You see Gavin Bouchel, who came off the pit lane. Hats off to Isabella Robusto. Got another podium effort in one of her ARCA Menard Series starts. This one in the West Series at Portland. Gavin making his second start of the season. We'll see Isabella back in that car, I'm sure, as well as the season continues to unfold. As it's an all KHI front row for the restart, just as it was for the start of this race.
HendrickCars.com pace car pulls down. Cruz and Landon Lewis try to get going through the Death Wish Coffee restart zone. It's a good launch on the outside, though, for Landon Lewis. You can see that second car on the outside. Great launch for that number 15 Leisure Time Reynolds Chevrolet and Ryan Millington as well. Cruz will drive away with the lead for now, but Landon Lewis may try to challenge off of turn 4, or at least get clear for second. He's just about able to down into 1.
Boy, the field is tight here for second on back. Lapsevich up to the door number of that of Landon Lewis for the battle for second. And you see Lapsevich there slide up the racetrack a little bit, nearly into the side of Lewis on the outside, with Butterbean watching on there in 4th. And here comes Bobby McCarty to try to get up to the top 5 while they're bouncing off each other for second.
Again, everybody wants to get down to the bottom, but then you have a couple of stack-ups that you could try to take advantage of, as you'll see a little more contact between Lapsevich and Landon Lewis. They're backing up the entire field. Meanwhile, Cruz has been able to drive away to about the lead he had before the Shitty Coolers competition caution. Lewis going to try to get clear, but Butterbean is there to the adulation of this crowd at Langley.
Everyone waving that 03 on, and McCarty's looking to walk right through the door as well. McCarty may not have gone to victory lane here before with the Cars Tour, but he is the 2017 Hampton Heat winner, and his best start and finish here was second, trying to better that today, and he's following someone who's got 2 Hampton Heat wins and a Cars Tour victory out the windshield in that of Butterbean, as Lewis gets knocked back to 5th.
Well, again, Bobby started back in 11th, and he has been methodical trying to make up these spots, as Lewis going to try to cross him back over into 3. They almost touch. McCarty trying to hang tough on the high side. Is he going to be able to drive away? Looks like Lewis is just hanging in there. I was going to mention that McCarty has been efficient in making his passes, and that's a big part of saving these tires, of trying to do everything you can to get up to the front. You don't want to waste your time in a battle, and McCarty started in 11th, up into 4th right now, but it has only been a handful of laps that he's been side by side with the car. When he pulls up, he's getting there, and he's getting gone quickly.
We've mentioned this earlier at the top of the show, but no driver in the 5 races held here prior has won from outside the top 10 when they came to the green flag in a ZMAX Cars Tour event at Langley. McCarty's got the best chance of being the one to snap that record here tonight as he's up to 4th. Here's Butterbean now in the tire tracks of Trayton Lapcevich, who is trying to close up, or at the very least maintain, what is a 3/4 of a second gap up to Cruz, who has pretty much been in command of this race since the word go. Butterbean a little bit lower off that second corner, trying to close up to within perhaps 2 car lengths as they come to the middle of 3 and 4.
I know everybody here is cheering for that 0-3, but I think that 6 car that's behind him is just a little bit faster right now. In fact, he's the fastest car on the property each of the last 3 laps that we've turned. So McCarty starting to flex some muscle and pull up to this battle.
Oh, trouble,
for second
hard crash.
Buddy Isles Jr. hard into the wall. That's in turn 1. As he noses it at an awkward angle just in front of our camera operator in turn 1.
From what we see,
my goodness,
the way in which the tire tracks lead up to where that car is, either there was major contact that got Buddy in that position, or something went horribly wrong mechanically with that race car, and Buddy may let us know what's going to happen right here as he is in a hurry on the back straightaway, pulling in front of Cody Dempster in the 24.
Well, and you can see the damage on that number 24 car, so yeah, I think that's shut and dry case there as to who else may have been involved in that one. And everything from those tire tracks, again, how quickly that Isles spun around would indicate he definitely got clipped in the left rear, and not sure if that would have been a flat that spins him around, but nevertheless, hard into the outside wall. Buddy Isles Jr. gets the worst end of it as Dempster out of Colorado we saw also with a fair amount of damage on the right front fender of his car, but all 4 tires are up. So Buddy Isles, yep, you can even see the left rear quarter panel bent in, likely where that contact would have happened.
A lot of damage to Buddy Isles' car. Brian White is in the pit area.
Heavy front end damage to the Buddy Isles Jr. race. The entire left front of the front is pushed in on this race car. The window net comes down. One unhappy race car driver, dejected. His night is going to come to an end after running strong here this evening. Buddy Isles Jr. going to climb from the car. We'll see if we can get a word from him in just a moment.
Thanks, Brian. I had a chance to spend some time with, you saw the GXS Wraps logo on the front of that race car, the 11 that is. Of course, Stephen Dunn, who is someone who does so much for the sport and the series. Of course, he's got a Stickered Up podcast. Spent some time with Stephen last night, and he was singing the praises of Buddy Isles, reminding us that not only is he a rookie with the Cars Tour, but Buddy does not have all that much experience on pavement. He's actually someone who cut his teeth a lot in dirt racing, and he's been having an absolute blast and running quite well, picking up his second top 15 effort last time out of Tri-County. But unfortunately, that Mike Darn team has a lot of work to do. And the same here for Parker, Colorado's Cody Dempster, who has also sheared a lot of body work off the right front of his race car. Well, Buddy Isles, unfortunately, is not going to be able to continue on here tonight. He's already out of the car. Brian's with him.
I'm standing by with Buddy Isles Jr. A tough way to start this race tonight.
Yeah, just got dive bombed by the 24. I don't know what he was thinking. I think my Mike Darn crew, Prayer Tank Lines, GSX Wraps, Timber Waters, all my guys. We worked hard to try to be here and get it right on dive bomb. It's just kind of a crappy night.
All right, Buddy Isles very disappointed. He's dejected. He said a dive bomb move by another driver in the field.
And again, that would have been a battle for the 17th position between Buddy Isles and Cody Dempster. And Isles quickly hopping out of his car. His night is done. And Dempster, you can see the crew trying to even have some Chad Bryant racing guys that are helping out there with Cody Dempster. And, you know, Eric, I know this is a pit area that is willing to help out anybody, but I don't know if I see a single team where other cars are involved in an incident, and there's a Chad Bryant Racing t-shirt almost helping out in nearly every scenario.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And now, granted, first off, hats off to Buddy Isles, who the initial frustration of the wreck appeared evident, but that was a very calm, cool, and composed interview, stating, you know, what he saw as his version of what happened, and being able to keep himself in check, if you will, because it would have been very understandable if he would have been a little bit more animated, if you will, in his description of what happened. But we touched on Cody Dempster as well, as we see there's still some debris up in turn number 1. Dempster is someone who committed to the Cars Tour at the beginning of this season, even though he lives in Colorado, and he's someone who decided, I know that's the best form of pavement short track racing right now. We're going to keep the car in the Carolinas. He travels back and forth to work in his HVAC company, which is a family business that he works on and runs in. But being that they are a single car entity, a big wreck for New River kept him out. This was his first race back in what is a new car, and unfortunately it's not off on the right foot in which he was hoping for.
70 laps to go. The second Shitty Coolers caution of the night slows us down. But we will be back with the rest of the Visit Hampton.com 125 on FloRacing. Back with you here at Larry King Law's Langley Speedway. Brent Cruz has led us through all 55 green flag laps that we have run thus far. Trayton Lapsevich in second. But Eric, you and I were just talking kind of under that commercial break about a couple of the cars that are further back. Brendan Queen, Bobby McCarty. I think that those may be the two to settle it. However, let's get an update down trackside with Brian White.
Cody Dempster back down on pit lane for at least the second time. They are trying to tape the hood down of the race car. They have been working on this for several moments. Heavy damage to this race car as well. As you recall, we just talked with Buddy Isles Jr. Likely contact between those two cars. We do see front end damage, but this car, unlike Buddy Isles Jr., will be able to continue. They're just trying to make sure the hood stays down, and we'll see him coming back out in just a moment.
Again, they're going to have to do that quickly, and I think they know that time is running out as they have come across and chosen which lane that they're going to restart in. Cruz will go on the inside. Queen elects to be the first car to jump up on the outside line. And Eric, we've seen a couple of cars really be able to hold that bottom car at bay. Don't know if there's anybody better here at this racetrack that could do it than Brendan Queen.
This is a very bold strategy from someone who's riding a big wave of confidence. Current points leader, most recent winner, now alongside the Thunder Road Harley-Davidson pole sitter to see if he could be the first car tonight to make the outside lane work.
Jim Bushy will bring down the HendrickCars.com pace car into the Death Wish Coffee restart zone. Cruz, Queen get us fired back off for 70 more laps here at Langley. Queen hanging tough on the outside. They'll be side by side off the corner as the crowd comes to their feet.
Just about wheel to wheel at the end of the back straightaway to 3. Queen doing everything he can to keep pace, gets a little wide and a little sideways. Fans still trying to wheel on Butterbean as they touch one another in turn 1, and Cruz now has a half car length advantage and is clear for the lead off 2.
Cruz washes up a little bit in the center of the corner now. Butterbean gets back down to the bottom. He does so in front of Trayton Lapsevich. Meanwhile, battle for 4th still going. Hot and heavy between Bobby McCarty and Landon Lewis. Down into 1, McCarty, these two have been racing really hard with one another. McCarty just clears the 62, gets back down in line in front of Quaffle.
Like there might be a little bit of a wrinkle perhaps on the right front quarter panel of the 62 of Landon Lewis. Last time we saw the car come by our shot. Matt Waltz was making up some ground just prior to the most recent caution. He's on the outside of Ryan Millington in the 2, Millington in the black 15 on the bottom, and Connor Hall also trying to float his way further up the running order. Unfortunately, right now, he's only one spot better than where he started in 10th. He runs 9th.
Well, again, Matt Waltz, we saw him a little bit earlier, kind of kicked up some dust and lost 6, 7 positions, and very quickly on that last run, he made up nearly all of those spots, and he was able to do it somewhat like what he's been able to do here, hanging tough on the outside line and making a couple of passes on these restarts as he and Connor Hall, a couple of hometown favorites and natives of Hampton, Virginia, duking it out as now Waltz, I think, will think better of it. Tries to get down, but Jacob Hefner going to be there, if only for a moment. But now Waltz finally finds some solace on the bottom lane, back in the 9th position.
Here's McCaskill, the inaugural winner of the Z-Max Cars Tour event at Langley 5 rounds ago, back in 2019. As we look at McCarty now pressuring another young gun in the field. This one would be that of Trayton Lapsevich in the 77. And Blake, I had a chance to hang out with Bobby this morning, along with Deke. Boo Carlisle was there as well, putting together his RNS race car summary that he does
Was there
for
beer
his blog.
involved?
Not yet. I think he's saving it for the end of the night. But I have to say, Bobby was as laid back and composed as one could have ever imagined. And that may be bad news for the competition because he's got himself a hot rod tonight and looks inside of Lapsevich for 3rd and 3.
It's the center of the quarter where McCarty is able to make up so much ground, able to get back and just look at the turn that car has a little bit more than perhaps he would have wanted. But again, he has confidence he can put that car exactly where he wants to put it, as there's almost contact further back as Lapsevich trying to stop the bleeding. Landon Lewis trying to pounce. And I know, by the way, Carson Quapple also up into the 6th position. He gets by Millington, who's side by side with Connor Hall, dips his left side tires all the way down, nearly to the grass, and tries to make that move. Crossover's clear. Millington back down to the bottom.
Boy, Hall was getting that whole race car down on the flat to try to kick the rear steer in to get that car to corner better. Millington almost crossed him over, but couldn't get the drive off the 2nd corner. That's going to move Connor Hall up another spot. He's up to 7th and pressuring the car in which he came together with at Tri-County late last week. Connor Hall was very public with saying after that contact with Quapple while racing for position, he contemplated pulling it off for the night. The two had a conversation post-race. There appears to be no ill will between the two of them, but they always seem to find each other on the racetrack, and here they are again.
And the reasoning for that is, again, he was put at the tail end of the field with only a couple of laps remaining in that race, so it was going to be very difficult to try and make up a couple of more spots, and that's kind of why he's in the position he's in right now. Had a comfortable lead in the championship standings, now sitting 5 points back of Butterbean, who, oh, by the way, he's up to 2nd right now, could maybe go up, lead some laps, win this race. So Connor Hall, who was in control for the early part of this season, at least right now, starting to lose a little bit of ground, but could certainly use a little bit of luck here and a little bit of speed to try and get around Carson Quapple.
Flash forward back up to the front of the field, and Brent Cruz is doing exactly what he did in the first stint of this race, and that is maintain a lead of about 1 second or so. In this case, it is 0.8 of a second over that of Butterbean. But Blake, I'll lean on what you said earlier about Cruz's performance at Southern National. We've seen before where racking up this many laps led in a race may be a position to come back to bite the young driver, or are the lessons learned going to be enough to perhaps hold off one of the hottest drivers on the tour right now, and certainly one of the hometown favorites in Butterbean?
Well, again, points racing, I think, is a lot of what you think about here with Brent Cruz. Gets 2 points for winning the Thunder Road Harley-Davidson pole. Gets an additional point for leading the most laps and leading a lap. So again, continue to slowly rack up those points, and if he's able to pull off what that 0-3 did last week, a perfect night in the Cars Tour as far as points are concerned is 37. That's a lot of ground that you can make up when he's trailing that car that's just behind him right now by 11.
All the while on the backstretch, this is a fight that won't go away. And look at how Connor Hall could get into the corner so much better than that of Carson Quapple at the end of the back straightaway. This has the ability to get that car to stop on a dime on corner entry, and he is peeking the left front headlight out to some clean air to give Quapple a warning that he's there, and Quapple has his hands full off too.
That's what you're going to see here at Langley late into this race, cars that are starting to slide off the corner. And again, there's no refuge on the straightaway. You don't really have the opportunity to settle in, to take a breather, if only for a second here. You're constantly turning here at Langley as Hall going to go down to the inside. All 4 tires on the flat, trying to make his move by Carson Quapple, but the 8 car hangs on for now.
There's been the slightest rub of Hoosier lettering, either off of the right front of the 22 or left rear of the 8 cars that came off of 4 last time by. Hall doing everything possible to try to get around the 8 car of Quapple to inch closer to what he hopes to be a top 5 running position in the latter stages of this race, but right now just hasn't been able to get far enough alongside to threaten to make that pass.
Again, you can see how much deeper, especially in the turn 3, that Connor Hall is able to drive. As that battle subsides for now, this one has been going on for a number of laps as well. Landon Lewis, Creighton Lapsovich, a couple of drivers bouncing there off that patch in turn number 2. Lewis, you can see he's gotten his hands dirty a little bit. Has some rubs on the right front fender and the right rear quarter panel, but for now, Lapsovich lets him on by and is able to go up into the 4th spot.
2 very talented young drivers battling for a front-running position in the Z-Max Cars Tour. And for Landon Lewis, obviously that's a car in which several other drivers have had the keys to so far this season. William Sawalich, Lane Rigg, Josh Berry's on the roster. For Landon, this is hoping to fuel some potential opportunities for him as well, not just in 24, but in the years to come as well, as Butterbean is starting to reel in Brent Cruz for the lead.
Again, that last time by, it was several tenths of a second that Queen was able to make up on Brent Cruz, so the gap is narrowing. They're about half a track back or so of lap traffic in the form of Connor Jones, Gavin Bichelle, and Katie Hettinger, and they are well in front of, about a second or so, in front of Bobby McCarty right now. So these two car lengths apart is the gap between Cruz and Butterbean with 43 laps to go.
Right now, Cruz trying to hold the steady wheel up off the corner, not seeing that right rear tire slide on him just yet as Butterbean attacks the apron to the entrance of turn 1, which is another trouble spot here at Larry King Law's Langley Speedway, because that is the pit exit gate. At the entrance of turn number 1, the end of the front straightaway, that's one of the areas where there's also a bit of a divot that starts to build in terms of a bump, as now we've got Hall pressuring Quapple, with them both catching Lapsovich in what is a battle for the final spot on the top 5.
Yeah, we saw Lapsovich there, who was hanging on over Landon Lewis, didn't put up much of a fight, and now very quickly has fallen back into the clutches of a fight that's been going on pretty much since we dropped the green flag on this run. Quapple and Connor Hall, as Butterbean a little bit slow. He has lost a ton of ground to Brent Cruz, and we'll see if he continues running, but looks like right now that 0-3, you can see not running at full song, I don't believe.
Last time by, the car didn't sound all that right, but it's hard to tell from our vantage point here, as now it appears that gap has kind of stabilized right now. McCarty is entering the frame.
Again, he slowed significantly, a couple of tenths the last 2 or 3 laps or so, but yeah, you can see McCarty has gotten back into this fight as well, so we'll keep tabs there on the 0-3 of Butterbean, who last time by was 3 tenths off the pace over everybody in the top 5. Connor Hall finally back down to the inside. They nearly brushed doors off the corner, but Hall, at least at the stripe, will have the position.
This is the furthest forward that Hall has been in this battle so far tonight. Now Quapple trying to cross under off the second corner. Can he get the drive to stay inside in turn 3? Hall gives him room, and they're just about side by side off the corner, with Hall being able to hold on to the spot. And he's gotten the pass made, but runs a little bit wide in the middle of the corner, and now Hall is clear.
Able to get the job done on the top side. That puts Hall up into the 6th position. You know, thinking about a couple of those drivers that may be backing off, there was a huge gap back, and now Butterbean's kind of picked back up the pace. That may not be a mechanical problem. That may be Lee Pulliam in the ear of Brendan that says, hey, by the way, we'll have another competition caution probably somewhere around the bend. Don't push too hard. There's no need to go up and try to lead this race right now, and I think that's exactly why you saw him exiting low, entering low off the corner, trying to take good care of that right rear tire. As we could see Cade Brown, who was a late charger at Tri-County a couple of weeks ago, makes his way by Deke McCaskill. That's for the 11th spot.
Brown trying to work his way up into a top 10 contention as McCaskill's car appears to be very wiggly up off the corner. Got a little bit loose there out of 4. And indeed, Blake, I think you're right about that 03 car. I popped the headset off, and actually that car didn't sound all that worse for the wear in terms of what I thought I heard the first time it came by, which may have just been him taking it easy on the throttle.
Yeah.
So, not to scare all the Butterbean fans, because I'm certain that I gave a few people a heart attack. He's still right there in second spot, especially knowing that a chance to re-rack the field could be looming.
Again, 32 laps to go. Cruz across the line. You can see some of the lap traffic that's just up the road. A couple of cars that many of which came down and tried to make some adjustments to help the handling of their race cars, but unfortunately that has not made the difference that they were looking for. It'll now be just 30 laps remaining. Cruz out. It's about 1.3 seconds that he has over Brendan Queen, over McCarty, Landon Lewis, Trayton Lapsevich, your top 5, who is now getting hounded by the driver who used to pilot that race car last year, Connor Hall, able to make the move by. He's up into the top 5.
Big Hall got a little bit loose on the bottom of the racetrack and may have touched the left rear of Lapsevich, who sends it back up the inside on Connor Hall. In this fight for 5th, that's just about side by side off the corner, but again, Hall prevails at the exit of turn 2.
And again, I think very aware of what that 77 car was doing as he slid up the racetrack a little bit there in 1 and 2. Connor Hall kind of moved up with him, saw what was going on, was able to get a good drive off the corner and make up that spot. So Connor Hall could be somebody, once we re-rack him, that could certainly be in the fight for this finish.
I love the ability of that 22 car to just kind of kick out the back end and help corner a little bit better on each end of the racetrack. As you see Cruz here starting to close up on some of those cars that are on the tail end of the lead lap, including what is about to be a side-by-side fight for position between that of Katie Hedinger and Connor Jones as they almost come together on the front stretch.
And again, to show and just talk about the lap time differential, Connor Hall last time was 0.3 faster than the lap that Brent Cruz ran. So certainly differing agendas going on right now as Cruz still has a little bit of lap traffic up the road. How aggressive do you get? And oh, by the way, Queen made up about 1.5 tenths that last lap. So 25 laps to go. And Queen starting to make up some time.
Hedinger and Jones hoping they get the opportunity here to stay on the lead lap, and they will. As we click off another 45 laps of consecutive green flag action, the Shitty Coolers caution drops with about 100 laps in the books. And that means that we are setting up for what's going to be an old school classic 25 lapper at Langley to settle the VisitHampton.com 125.
This is going to get good.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be great. How much does Brent Cruz have left in the tank with his ST2 tires? Is he going to be able to hang on? How hard is Brendan Queen going to fight? We know McCarty has one of the fastest race cars out here this weekend. Is he going to be able to make a move? And Connor Hall, who has just gotten his way up into the top 5, what can he do in his Autos by Nelson Toyota? We'll see you through to the checkers when we come back after this on FloRacing.
Time to take a look at some of the biggest upcoming events streaming live on FloRacing. The Kubota High Limit Racing Series is a packed schedule with stops at Davenport, I-70, and Eagle. Hopefully they get some good weather. They've had a couple of rainouts as of late. June 4th marks the start of USAC Indiana Midget Week. That's going to be 6 nights of racing action. Castrol FloRacing Night in America is going to take us to Eldora Speedway on June 5th, just ahead of the Dirt Late Model Dream, June 6th through the 8th, all at Eldora Speedway. The USAC Eastern Storm has 6 nights of racing at 6 different tracks starting on June 11th. For more information on more can't-miss events streaming live on FloRacing, just go on over to floracing.com/events for a full schedule and details. 1-to-go signal being given by our chief starter in that of Brandon Willard, and we've got a new driver and car on the front row. Former Hampton Heat winner, his best finish and start here prior was second. That is our 3-time Cars Tour champion in Bobby McCarty outside of the front row.
Boy, you see how close they are to the HendrickCars.com pace car? They're ready to go. They're chomping at the bit. Brent Cruz trying to heat up his tires. Bobby McCarty is there. And then how about the hometown heroes, Queen and Hall, just behind. 25 laps to go through the Death Wish Coffee restart zone. Cruz will turn us loose. He gets a bump from Queen. 3 wide into turn 1. Queen sliding on the bottom. Lewis may look to make it 4 wide, but they're 2 by 2. Now looking 3 as Queen has some damage. Cruz up the racetrack. Queen, he saves it. Here comes Lewis and Connor Hall down to the bottom.
And somehow they survive the lap. Landon Lewis to the lead. He gets shoved aside by Queen, and the crowd roars on the front straightaway. Queen inside of Lewis for the top spot in 3.
And now they're going to be 3 wide for second. Connor Hall, he's clear to second. Queen and Hall to the front as the crowd goes crazy here at Langley.
You couldn't have scripted it any better. The 2 hometown drivers, top 2 in the points, top 2 in the race in front of the hometown fans with less than 25 to go, and Hall is there.
Butterbean, a 3-time champion at this racetrack. Connor Hall has barely lost at this racetrack in the last 2 years. Mono, Queen and Hall for the top spot as they continue to drive away from Cruz. Oh, by the way, Quapo also making a charge there to try for 3rd, but Queen having to hang on with a little bit of damage to the nose of his race car.
Most of the fans that stood up for the restart are still standing. Top 2 separated by less than a car length. Cruz, who got muscled aside from the race lead, still lurking there in 3rd. Has Connor Hall's car come to life at just the right time? 20 to go, and they're still bouncing off each other in the midfield.
Contact further back. McCarty, who was up into 3rd, is now way back and way off the pace. McCarty back to 14th. Something befalling him in the number 62, but Connor Hall still hounding the back bumper of the bestrepair.net Toyota. Down into turn 1, Hall with a deep drive, trying to cut down low. Does he look to the bottom off at 2? Has to wait for now. Still 19 to go.
And look at how wrinkled up the 03 Lee Pulliam Performance car is of Queen as now Hall gets sideways off of 4. The front valence of that car pointed way up skyward, right in the center. Perhaps it impacting the handling of that vehicle as Cruz makes it a 3-car race at the front.
Cruz was 2/10 faster than your top 2 as Queen slides. Hall spins down to the inside. He'll save it. Missed the drain. Down in turn 4. Hall hangs on, and so does Butterbean.
And Queen is going to try to run and hide now that he got clear of the carnage behind him. How did Connor Hall save that race car?
Does he have enough left to drive back to your top 2? Cruz, again, as we mentioned, was 2 or 3/10 faster when Hall and Queen were kind of sizing each other up. So Cruz has 6/10 of a second to make up. Quapo trying to hang on to 4th as Lapsevich slides on back. You can also see some nose damage on Ryan Milliken's car, very reminiscent of what we saw there at Ace. But Butterbean being cheered on by this crowd, but Brent Cruz is catching him.
Cruz may have the better handling race car right now with all the damage and body slamming that's been going on. And Cruz probably said, hey, if we're all going to start banging fenders, I'm in. And he is right there as they all start to accordion back together with 14 laps to go at Langley.
Brent Cruz made up time yet again on that last lap. Connor Hall has done so as well. Trouble turn 2. Cade Brown battling for 6. Goes around, and the shitty cooler's caution will be displayed. Oh, man.
We needed that. My goodness.
Where's an
I've never
oxygen
seen
tank?
anything like that. I mean, everybody hit everybody for those 2 laps after the restart. I don't know how in the world Connor Hall saved that car. I don't know how we didn't wreck for the last 6 laps.
Again, what Hall was able to do, again, there's kind of I want to call it a dirt track. There's almost a rut down there in turn 4 that when he saved it, he had to avoid. He was able to do that. This is the replay of this wreck. Chad McCumbee, Matt Waltz, you could see battling, but up the road, Brown and Millington make contact, kind of fighting for the same piece of real estate. Brown gets the worst end of it. And unfortunately, Brown, who had driven up to 7th, made up a handful of spots on that restart, is unfortunately going to have to restart at the tail end of the field.
Brown, the Bilstein Shocks Rookie of the Race award winner from Tri-County, making his first start here at Langley, was doing exactly what he did at Tri-County, worked his way up through the field rather late. But I will tell you what, and I think now it's safe to say that the gloves are off. At this point, we can pretty much see that it's going to be whatever it takes in order to get the job done at the front of this field with this restart upcoming. Because we've seen everyone just about be willing to do whatever they think it's going to take in order to lead this field at the checkers.
It's a little bit of debris, and that's in turn number 3. Again, you get a great shot. Look at the surface. That's what I love about Langley. You can look and see how this surface is chewing up these tires, is pushing these drivers to their absolute limit. Now, I feel like Queen probably had one of the faster cars. I think some of that skirmish that he was put through has probably hurt his race car just a little bit. But we know if anybody can hang on and get a little bit physical at that to do so, I don't know if there's anybody better than this 03 car to get that job done.
And I have to feel that at this rate, as you see what is about to be some of the most hardworking individuals here at Langley, all of the spotters, along with some of our camera operators as well. But I have to say, at this rate, everyone up in the front of this pack, maybe everybody in the field, they feel like they've been rooted. They feel like they've been gouged. They've done a lot of taking. They're not going to be given a whole lot. I think everyone might be at the point where it's like, I got to do what it takes to get elbows up. And when you start to unify that ideology throughout the front of the field, I think we're in for what could be a repeat of what we just saw in the last restart.
Also have a situation down in the pits. Landon Lewis, who was one of your top runners before he and Bobby McCarty fell through the field, is down in the pit area. And unfortunate for him after such a strong effort. We'll toss it down to Brian White for one last update.
Yeah, Landon Lewis was down here in the pits. They had the hood up for multiple minutes, making several adjustments. They have since put the hood down and sent him back out of the racetrack, ninth the way he wanted this night to go.
So Lewis will rejoin the field as we can look and see the results of the choose. Queen Hall, 15 laps to go at a track that may make their names, are restarting at the front of the field with 15 laps to go. Could you have scripted it any better than this?
Look at the way that Hall is making sure that his tires are nice and clean for this upcoming restart. I saw Kyler Hope earlier today, one of our hardworking members in the truck, who put that camera together on the back of the HendrickCars.com pace car. And I got to say, that shot of those two at this point in the race with 15 to go, oh, I got goosebumps. Let's go. Let's get this race back going.
Well, the lights are off. The HendrickCars.com pace car will pull in. Is it Queen? Is it Hall? Or is it somebody else that gets the checkered flag here at Langley? The crowd stands up. We're ready to settle it. Side by side, off of turn 2. Hall with a great drive off the corner. He may have what he needs down into turn 3. Connor Hall pulls ahead. Queen trying to fight on the bottom. Hall up to the lead as he gets by Brendan Queen.
It took until 15 laps to go, but Connor Hall made the top side work. A little bit of body work dragging on the backside of the 03 right now as he runs in second. That may be some of the rear Nerf bars and bumpers underneath that bumper cover. And right now, Queen is hoping that thing makes it to the finish and does not draw the ire of officials.
Yeah, that's the biggest worry there for Brendan Queen, is Connor Hall just absolutely putting it on him right now. Coming around to 12 laps to go, 3 to 4 car lengths clear, and Queen, despite the damage, driving away from the rest of the field. But is it enough to try and chase down Hall? As you can see, sparks still flying out from the back end of that 0-3 car.
The unfortunate news for that Queen is that Connor Hall is opening up the gap at the front of the field. Last year won this race in what was the 100th Cars Tour event ever held in the late model stock era. And now he'll be about 10 laps away from what would be his first win of the season, with an opportunity to potentially get back to the top of the championship standings, or at least cut it close. But the racing is still hot and heavy here between Millington and Walsh, just outside the top 5.
Matt Walsh has had an incredible drive up through this field after sliding early. He has been able to make spots up on the top side. How about Chad McCumbee has spent a majority of this race back in the 20th position. He's up to 8th. He's trying to challenge for perhaps what would be a top 5 when this is all said and done. An incredible rebound for Chad McCumbee as well as that number 2 car.
McCumbee, one of the drivers we thought maybe was saving at the start of the race, trying to keep that streak alive of never finishing outside the top 10 in a Cars Tour race here at Langley. Right now, McCumbee may have one of the faster cars in the top 10, all over the back of Millington, who's all over the back of Waltz.
Oh, trouble! No! Queen goes around off of turn 2. Caution is out. And Eric, at least from what we caught there, I don't think there was any help in that. He just spun off the corner.
The championship points leader. What happened to Brendan Butterbean Queen with Brent Cruz behind him and the bumper dragging off the backside of that car?
Oh, he didn't hit him. He hit the debris.
Wow. So Cruz appeared to catch that piece of rear bumper bar that was hanging off the race car. And that may have been all it took to upset the back of that car enough to send him around. Let's go to Brian.
Brendan Butterbean Queen in the pits. They are working on the back of this race car to get the piece of debris, the metal, pulled off. They've indeed done that now. It was dragging on this race car for the last several laps. As a matter of fact, he was posted the black flag to come in and take that off. He spun the car, and now he's come down pit lane to have that removed. He'll rejoin the rear of the field. Butterbean on his way to a win. At least it appeared that way. He was inside the top 2. Will rejoin the field now.
Blake, I don't think anybody wants to lead the points championship. It seems like every driver who's been in contention for the title has had some sort of misstep whenever they're in that position. And we used the term mulligan earlier. Now it seems like whoever wins this title may get like 2 or 3 of those mulligans in terms of bad races on the season, which we haven't seen in the last few years. It's incredible.
Well, no, think about it last year that the margin between Quapple and Queen was just a couple of points. That was with no DNFs. That was with every single race aside from the last one being a top 10 or better for that of Carson Quapple. But yes, we have seen more attrition come into play this year in a big way. As Landon Lewis, you could see the work continuing on his race car. One more look at what happened off of turn 2. Cruz catches him, and it's almost like it kind of traps that work, and Queen gets back into the throttle, spins it out, and brings out the shitty cooler's caution.
What do they say about NFL players? That your hair is an extension of your uniform, and if someone grabs you to tackle you, it's a legit tackle. I'd say that bar was the extension of the 03 car there a little bit, but what a unique set of circumstances. And hey, we drummed up some of the irony in the front row for the last restart, with it being Queen and Hall. How about the 2 cars that got together at Tri-County with a few laps to go? That's your front row right now in Hall and Quapple.
I just don't know after those last couple of laps if we have anything for Connor Hall also, but I think Brian White made a good point right there. Just before that spin, there was a black flag issued there to Butterbean for that piece of debris that was dragging off the back of his race car. But they'll come around this time. 1 to go before we turn them loose for 8 more laps. Hall, Quapple side by side on row number 1. It'll be Cruz and Lapsevich row 2. And then how about Matt Waltz and Ryan Millington making up row 3? How about row 4? Bobby McCarty fell way back, almost outside of the top 15. He's driven back up to 8th, and we have seen him a number of times this season. Great comebacks late in these races. A ton of space given to the HendrickCars.com pace car. by Connor Hall as they'll work their way through the Death Wish Coffee restart zone. They were going pretty slow, and the best launch is that of Carson Quapple on the high side. 8 laps to go, and the 8 car looking for the lead here at Langley.
And 8 wheels make corner better than 4. They rope together off of turn 2 to turn 3. Hall's going to shove him up wide just a little bit to get back to the race lead as Quapple cuts underneath him to turn 1.
Hall slides, Quapple cuts down to the inside. Hall going to try to hold steady on the top side. Quapple drifting off the corner as they'll nearly brush doors into turn 3, and in fact they do. Quapple sliding on the bottom. Hall hanging on the top side. 6 laps to go. Brent Cruz waiting in the wings if something happens to your top 2.
Look at how wide Hall had to go there, but he's got a good drive off the corner. Can he clear the 8 car? Just barely. But Quapple's trying to keep the fender inside as Cruz joins the party.
Connor Hall swatting flies, the crowd cheering him on here at Langley Speedway. A native of Hampton now leading this field with 5 laps to go, trying to pull away from Quapple, but not going to be that easy. Quapple, another great drive into 3.
Connor Hall with the move to Nelson Motorsports in 2024 after winning the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series National Championship. He's been very public about the fact he's still learning this team, learning this group, but what better place to try to put it all to the test than right here at home while Butterbean's trying to slice his way up through the pack.
Again, trying to make up some crucial spots in the championship as he makes a move just in front of Jacob Hefner. Tyler Tomasi in that number 21 car gets shoved up the groove as he tries to make up precious points in the battle for the championship. Meanwhile, up front, it is all Connor Hall who has opened up a gap of about 7 to 8 car lengths.
Physical when he had to be, and right now hoping he can make it back to the line. Here comes Connor Hall, who had to work very hard for an opportunity to stare at the white flag at Langley.
The crowd goes wild, white flag in the air, and one more lap around here at Langley. There's some trouble in turn 4, though, and the Shitty Coolers caution is out. Brandon Pierce, Katie Hettinger have gone around, and we may have to settle this one with another restart.
I'm going to need oxygen. I don't know if we can keep doing this. This is wild. Hettinger's car making her 10th career late model stock car start. Ends up just about beached at the transition between the apron of the racetrack and the grass inside of turns 3 and 4. Luckily, she's able to roll back towards the open area of racing surface that is presented to her as the field rolls by. And we are going to get ourselves a bit of an overtime finish with Connor Hall being about a half a lap away from victory, it seemed, before a couple of cars tangled at the back of the field. We will have to do it all over again.
Again, the rules here in the ZMAX Cars Tour that with that Shitty Coolers caution being displayed before they were able to safely get back around to the start-finish line. Again, that accident happened in turn 4. It does not end the race. So Hall, Quapple, Cruz, and even throw Matt Waltz into that conversation. He's back and forth. We'll have to decide this one with 2 laps to go.
It is unbelievable the range of stories that we've been presented here tonight. Connor Hall, we touched on, of course. Carson Quapple, we mentioned Butterbean coming into tonight's race being able to predominantly leapfrog his way up into the championship points lead. It was pretty much the exact opposite for the car that you see on your screen right now, and that of Carson Quapple. He went from 3rd to 8th in the championship point standings by virtue of his 22nd place effort at Tri-County. It's been a topsy-turvy. If we were to try to draft some sort of line chart to show where everyone has gone in the points fight in 2024 so far, we might not be able to make complete sense of it. It's been that crazy. But there is another added incentive for several drivers in the field, in fact 6. The Langley Speedway, which of course is located right nearby the Langley Air Force Base, this is a big military town. Not just for the Air Force, but in fact there are 6 different branches of the military represented here today. And there are 6 drivers who were at the top 6 in points at the time this initiative was put forth by the racetrack. They came out here earlier tonight and they were paired with a branch of the military service. Butterbean with the Space Force, Connor Hall for the Marines, Brent Cruz with the U.S. Navy, Minnie Tyrell for the United States Army, which he has a very personal connection with, as he shared on his socials, losing his grandfather in active duty several years ago. The 77 of Trayton Lapcevich with the Air Force, and the 8 of Carson Kvapil with the Coast Guard. We talk about added incentive to go to victory lane. Right now, 3 of the cars, right now your top 3 as a matter of fact, 4 of the top 5 know that they've got the potential to bring some of the most bravest men and women to victory lane with them tonight, let alone to grab themselves a Cookout victory lane appearance for their race teams.
Now I was about to say, when you look at the top 5, top 6, a number of those drivers, Lapcevich, Brent Cruz, Connor Hall, amongst those that could perhaps pull that feed off for their respective branch of service. Just got word from Race Control. It will be a green, white, checkered finish to settle this one in the visithampton.com 125 from Langley. You can see the results of the choose. Hall and Kvapil, row 1, Cruz and Matt Waltz, row 2.
We've seen Hall and Kvapil trade paint. We've seen Brent Cruz trade paint with a couple cars. Matt Waltz is probably the one just hoping to be in the right place at the right time, but that car is so fast tonight. Lapcevich, Millington, row 3, McCumbee and McCarty, row 4. That takes you through your top 8 with just 2 laps to go in this race. Nobody has left, and there's going to be a lot of fans coming to their feet. Some of them already are for this restart.
HendrickCars.com, pace car will pull off. Is it Hall or is it Kvapil who may get his 3rd win of the season? We'll find out as they work their way into the Death Wish Coffee restart zone. Hall gets back on the binders, but Kvapil a better launch on the top side. They're side by side down into 1 for 1st and for 3rd. They lean on each other out of turn number 2.
Right now it's Hall still on the bottom. Not enough room for Kvapil to slide under. Here they go into 3 as Hall runs wide to the white flag. It's Hall to the race lead.
Kvapil may try to cross over with the white flag out. 1 more lap to go here at Langley. They get side by side for 2nd. Kvapil behind Hall. What does he do down into 3? They'll be 3 wide down into turn 3. All 3 drivers slide up the racetrack. A drag race down to the line. And just by the skin of a nose, Connor Hall wins the visithampton.com 125 by 7 1/1000ths of a second, and he does it in the top lane, and he didn't need the blue car to do that.
My, oh my, oh my, what a race did we just have at Langley. Here's a look at what happened coming to the checkered flag. Kvapil slid down underneath him. Cruz was just about already there, and now the 8 car runs up the racetrack. Cruz to the bottom, and it is just this close at the line.
Oh my goodness. And Kvapil and Cruz, respectively, had every opportunity, if they wanted to open up the wheel and put the throttle down and stuff this 22 in the fence, they had every opportunity to do so, and they didn't. Hats off, all 3 drivers. That is why we love the ZMAX Cars Tour.
That is a car and a driver that just went 10 rounds in a heavyweight title fight against the rest of the field on his home turf. And you could tell by the battle scars on the front, back, side to side, everything but the roof has been dinged up and dented on Connor Hall's car tonight. And it didn't take long. 7 races into their tenure with the Cars Tour, Connor Hall and Nelson Motorsports have parked at a Cookout victory lane. This is a familiar sight for many here at Langley, but this may be one of the most emotional and important wins in Connor Hall's Cars Tour career.
We'll toss it down to Brian White, who is ready for Connor Hall to climb out and cook out victory lane.
Connor Hall emerges from his race car victorious in the Visit Hampton 125 at his home turf. This is his 2nd straight Cars Tour win here at his home track. Of course, so dominant last season, won the championship, the NASCAR National Championship as well. Down here getting handshakes, talking it over with his crew members. One happy driver. Connor Hall has done it again. He is talking it over again. Says, hey, give me just 1 second, catching his emotions here. As, of course, that was a wild finish down to the line. 3 wide. He won 7 1/1000ths of a second. They're saying a prayer right now as they are huddling up as a team. They have done it here tonight. He was riding most of the evening, at least the first half, in the back top 10, but emerges near the end. Connor Hall, congratulations. You have done it this evening. You have won. What a wild finish, 3 wide at the line.
Yeah, that finish got pretty interesting, but it got pretty rough there. But, I mean, after it getting taken away from me nearly twice, I kind of had my mind up I wasn't going to lose this one. So I would like to say to all my supporters out here, it takes a lot more skill to do what I do than what you do booing. So here we are, baby, victory lane.
Take us through that last lap, that last corner. You had the lead coming to the white flag. What was going through your mind there at the finish of this race? Did you know you won?
So my spotter was just like, stay in it. So I just put it wide open. I knew I was either going to meet the concrete or not. And I looked and saw the 29 was super close. So it was a really good finish. I mean, I'm sure the fan, it was a great race for the fans. But, your track favorite can't always win every week now, can they?
Hey, your first win of the 2024 season, you become the first driver to win back-to-back or the multiple Cars Tour wins at your home track. What does it mean to win here?
I love Langley Speedway. Langley Speedway's done a lot for me. I started my career out here. Me and Brendan both. I think Langley, Bill's a great race car driver. So hats off to Bill Mullis, Chuck Hall, everybody out here. I would like to say a huge thank you to Mr. Barry Nelson for giving me the opportunity to drive his race car. My crew chief, Matthew Eshelman, Taco, Kevin, Dylan, Kevin, everybody, Lugnut, everybody who makes this thing possible. Charlie Long Racing Engines, Forrest Reynolds Racing Chassis, Big Town Bank, shout out, they're here in the house, and I'm looking for bigger and better things.
Hey, a different car this year than what you drove last year, and you still put it in winner's circle.
Yeah, I could have built a new race car every time somebody asked me if I was going to bring mine this week, but this proves that this Nelson Motorsports group is just as good as mine.
Congratulations. Go celebrate.
Thank you.
Connor Hall gets it done. Wide smile on his face. Let's go back to the booth.
As long as they're making noise, that is all Connor Hall wants, as he is going to be very happy tonight in Cookout Victory Lane at a track that he has dominated for the last several years, and he's able to get the job done tonight in the Cars Tour. Top side, 3 wide. That's a look at your finishing order. I mean, 7 1/1000ths of a second was all that separated Hall and Cruz.
And it was so physical. Right till we got to the restart with 25 to go, the gloves were off. It's Cruz who comes home just inches short, if that, with a second place finish on what was a really good night for him and that team. Quapple, third. Matt Waltz, in what probably will be one of maybe 2 or 3 races he competes in 2024, fourth. And Trayton Lapsevich back on the right track in terms of trying to start another streak of top 10s, maybe top 5s. Rounds out that top 5 with Millington, McCumbee, again in the top 10 at Langley. This one from 16th on the grid. McCarty came back from the slugfest. McCaskill, and another strong run for Bryce Applegate in 10th.
Look back here, 11th on back, Bassett, Grady, couple of strong runs. How about Queen gets back up into the 14th spot despite starting at the tail end of the field there with just a couple of laps to go, all the way down to 20th. Katie Hettinger involved in that late spin with Brandon Pierce. Landon Lewis so dominant early on in this race, and then the 2 cars that tangled down into turns 1 and 2, Cody Dempster and Buddy Isles Jr. make up your 24 car field. But to hear from more of our finishers, let's throw it back down trackside to Brian White.
Standing here with Brent Cruz, who started on the pole position. He already has 1 win this season, led a ton of laps tonight. Have to settle for second, but you certainly made it exciting there at the finish.
Yeah, I just want to thank the good Lord above for keeping us all safe. That was a crazy race. Had a great KHI Racing Mobile 1 29 Toyota Camry all night. Led a lot of laps. Got a lot to be proud of. So happy to be here, and I just want to say hats off to the whole 22 team at Connor Hall. They ran a great race, and happy for their whole team, but just wish it could be us.
What did you need a little bit more to get to winner's circle tonight?
Kind of just not to get put in the third groove on the restart, but I get it. It's hard racing. When you got 15 to go, you got to go. So, I mean, it's just hard racing, but if I could have just kind of stayed out front there and not got shuffled up, I think that's what we needed, to just stay in clean air. I think was a big thing tonight. You just get tight in in traffic. So, just great car and a great team, and just happy to be here.
All right, congratulations on a runner-up finish.
Thank you.
That's Brent Cruz, second spot, and let's continue rolling down. We're going to find Carson Guapel, who finishes up P3 here tonight, the two-time and defending champion. Talking it over here as Carson Guapel, part of that three-wide battle at the checkered flag, has to settle just a little bit short of getting his win tonight, and again finishes up in the third position. Hey Carson, congratulations. Third place, not where you wanted to be, but you did put it at a podium finish.
Yeah, obviously we all come out here to win, and I'm honestly happy just to be in the top three. I feel like all race long we were kind of struggling and just didn't have the good car, didn't have a car under me to drive up there past cars, but a lot of things went our way there, and we had a really good shot at it there with Green Checkered, and I got under him off of 2, moved him up the hill a little bit, and I thought I was going to have him in 3, just we both came together, and I got a little bit jack sideways, and the 29 was able to get inside of us, but it was a great run overall. I feel like for the car we had a really good finish, and I can't really complain.
At what point near the end of the race did you think we really have a shot at this one?
Honestly, it was when that caution came out with the green white checkered. He kind of sailed out, and we were going to finish second, and that caution came out, and I knew it was my only chance. I didn't know whether to go bottom or top on him. I just felt like being on the front row, being able to, I guess, somewhat control the start, and in turn 1 was going to be key, and we got a pretty good start, and we were able to hold him off, and he got under us off 4, and then it was just it was more so just go time there. It was less trying to hit the right line, more so just racing the cars around you. But just can't thank this whole number 8 Junior Motorsports Bass Pro Shops Chevrolet team for all the work they put in, Brian and all the guys. It's a long way out here, and it feels really good to come out here and compete for a win.
All right, congratulations. Carson Guapel, third place here tonight.
Guapel brings it home third in a 3-wide finish. And oh, by the way, Eric, you remember last year we were somewhere in the Commonwealth of Virginia, 3-wide finish, I believe it's Dominion Raceway, right? We're going back there. Next time out for the ZMAX Cars Tour presented by Sound Gear in 2 weeks' time. What a way to follow up what we had here at Langley tonight.
The only downside is we got to wait 2 weeks for that. We get a week off. I think everybody needs a week off to catch their breath here. Connor Hall, along with Carson Guapel, coming up to offer up congratulations. Hall representing the United States Marines in victory lane with that at Langley Speedway. We're going to catch our breath, come back, and continue to recap the VisitHampton.com 125.